Remember when you were a kid and you would go to a family member's house and in their living room they had the good chair, and the good chair represented the best of their household? Well, now I'm offering the good chair in my house, and I'm going to offer it to your favorite content creators so we can slow down from a minute of content creation in the world that is ever speeding forward. And we're going to find out what it is they do and why they do it, what makes them love the content they create, and what their goals are and motivations. Welcome to the Good Chair.
What's up, everybody? Biltendo here, and tonight we're going to be introducing a whole new series where we're going to be interviewing creators and finding out why they create, what they do, and where you plan on taking it. And I am extremely grateful that for my first guest, I have RNG Gamer. You're on YouTube, you're on Instagram. First off, before we get into all that, what is your actual name? I mean, you don't have to tell me your last name.
My actual name is Jamie. So I go by Jamie or James. My wife's name is also Jamie. So I've started going by James.
Interesting. Oh, yeah. No. Jamie and Jamie are coming.
Jamie and Jamie, yep.
Jamie squared.
That's right.
So how did you land on the name RNG Gamer?
RNG Gamer it came out of this idea, and I've been doing this on my own for like almost 12 years. As you can see, I have a big game collection behind me, but I became just completely inundated with all the games I was getting. And I was becoming so overwhelmed with my backlog that I didn't really want to try anything new. I was just sitting with the same games forever and ever and adding more and more and more to the collection. So I just forced myself to start playing all of the games randomly out of my backlog. So RNG stands for random number generator. So I had a spreadsheet of all my games in my backlog, and I would load them into a spreadsheet and then use a random number generator to select them. And over years, I've added more and more caveats and rules to that that makes it a little bit more fun. So that's where RNG came from, random number generator gamer. And that's what I do on my YouTube channel. All the stuff I play is picked at random. When I stream, the games are picked at random, or people choose them for me at random to play. So that's where that name came from.
I like it. That's interesting. So you started collecting over a decade ago, and how long have you been doing content creation, and how did you get into that?
I've only been doing content creation about a year and a half. The reason I got into it was I was a writer for GameFAQs. I did like the Elden Ring review and a few other reviews on there. And that was fun. So I had like a passion for reviewing games. And even on my own, whenever I played a game, I would take notes and write down my thoughts on it, almost like a journal. But I noticed that my daughter was watching a lot of gamers on YouTube. And when we were kids, we watched children's programming. We watched cartoons. We watched Sesame Street, things like that.
Right.
But that content was created by adults for children. And I've noticed that a lot of children now, when they watch content, it's created by other children.
Yes.
And I didn't really want my daughter to idolize or turn these other children into her role models. All her friends were just watching gamers that were kids scream at a monitor and have these large reactions over small things that, that's good for views. It's energetic and things like that, but it's not an appropriate way to act in your normal life. So I thought rather than telling her, like, I don't want you to watch this, because there's no way I'm going to be able to prevent that. When she hangs out with her friends, she's going to see other content creators and she's going to watch what her friends watch. Instead of preventing her, I thought I will jump in there and do it myself. And maybe I can be the person on the internet that somebody looks up to and idolizes. And I can be a good influence in that sphere that is basically surrounded by people that maybe don't have the best societal skills to teach to children. That was my original plan. It turned out that most of the people that watched my channel were my same age that felt the same way as me. But that was the original onus for me doing that.
So am I to assume I've watched some of your content. I've definitely not watched all of it because there is a decent amount there. That you run a pretty clean channel because you still have that idea of children watching somewhere.
I run a pretty clean channel. I would say in 99.9% of my videos, there's no profanity hardly ever. Every once in on my streams, I'll let one slip if something.
Right.
But it's always PG-13 or less. The only exception to that is if I'm reviewing a game that's like rated for mature, and I do play adult games and stuff, but
right.
I'm not catering to any specific audience. I'm just catering to a general audience, but I do know people watch with their kids and things like that. So
right.
I try to.
So you're mindful that, you know, maybe not your intentional audience is there, but a younger audience may be there.
Absolutely. I would not hesitate to tell a parent that it's okay to watch my content. And you'll know if it's like a game review. You'll know if it's an M-rated game. Parents have to do, you know, a little legwork before they let their kids watch something, right? So you don't just let your kid jump on YouTube and watch whatever they want. So I fully intend if there's a parent watching the content with their kids that they've screened it a little bit beforehand. But in general, I would say it's pretty safe.
So I know for myself and a lot of other content creators that I speak to, we remember the first game that we created content on because it meant a lot to us. What would be that game for you?
Well, the first game I created content for, I don't believe was anything that specifically meant much to me. It was a game that got randomly picked, but it did end up meaning something to me. The first gameplay I captured was for The Walking Dead, the Telltale game, the adventure game. I played the complete collection of that on the PS4, and the first game of that was very impactful to me, and I played it when it originally came out, but I had never played like the second and third and fourth episode or any of the DLC. So I had that in a video that was the first gameplay video I covered. And before that, I was just doing like pickups videos, something easy. Let me show you the stuff I bought from my collection.
Right.
But I became acutely aware from the onset that I can't do pickups videos and collection videos all the time because I'm going to run out of money. I don't want to have to buy 40 games every week to have content. And I want to talk about the games themselves. There's a lot of people that talk about playing games. There are a lot of people that talk about collecting games. There's very few that talk about the games that they're collecting and playing them. And I wanted to do that. So that's kind of my niche. I kind of span that game collector / game reviewer genres.
Right. And for me, the one of the things that attracted me to your content is that you're honest about your feelings on a game, but at the same time, you don't fall into that whole AVGN. You know, like AVGN had such an influence on this industry, and myself, I don't think it's a great one. That's just my personal opinion. Because ever since AVGN got popular, everyone wants to do these game reviews where every game is the worst piece of garbage they've ever played, and they want to say all these horrible things about this game, but every game is special to someone, you know? And every game is going to honest opinion, but at the same time,
you know, every game, someone in the world, that's their favorite game. Even the worst game in the world, for someone out there, that's their favorite game. James Rolfe, the AVGN, he's an actor, right? He has a degree in filmmaking and a background in filmmaking, and the Angry Video Game Nerd is a character. And I get there's a niche for that, but he was so early in the industry. Like you said, he had a huge influence over it that kind of dictated it for years. There were a lot of them, you know, that spun out of that sort of mindset.
Yes.
And that looks good on camera, you know, playing things up and having big reactions and big emotions. And the easiest emotion to have is anger, right? It's easy to show that.
Right.
I'll show frustration, but I don't play up anything on the camera. I am on camera exactly the way I am in real life. If something makes me upset, I point it out. If it makes me happy, I point it out. But I try to be objective, even when a lot of my thoughts are subjective. My main job is that I'm a scientist. I'm a neuroscientist. I do scientific research. I try to be honest with everyone because I have to be, and I want to be honest, and I don't want to steer people in the wrong direction. I did this because I want people to love games, not because I want people to watch my videos. It's not
Right.
for me, it's for them, right? I want to educate them about video games, what makes video games good and bad, in my opinion, rather than like, come watch me. I have ideas for videos I could do right now that would get 500,000 views or something like that, but they would be harmful to not only my channel, but also the people watching it, because it would put them in the wrong path forward in their gaming journey. And I don't want that.
No, I understand that completely. I'm a firm believer in I one of my biggest complaints about any hobby, much less ours, because obviously it's a part of every hobby, is gatekeeping, and I have issues with that because why? I want to spread the joy of gaming. I love it. I love the way playing games makes me feel. So I want other people to experience what I experience. And I feel like a little connection there to what you're saying because of how I feel about gaming.
Right. Yeah, I don't like gatekeeping. I mean, everybody's going to gatekeep a little, right? But all I care about is, do you love video games? If you love video games and you want other people to love video games, you're more than welcome to come hang out and be part of the community. That's what I want. If you look down on somebody because their collection's smaller than yours, or if, they're not an elite online gamer or something like that, that's the kind of gatekeeping that hurts the community in the long run.
I mean, at one point we all had one console and 5 games. Right?
My first console was the NES, and I had the triple pack of Mario, Duck Hunt, and World Class Track Meet.
Mm-hmm.
And I was lucky. I got the 3-game bundle instead of the 2-game bundle.
Right. Well, my first game system, because I'm just a couple years older than you, was an Atari 2600. However, we didn't have much money, so I didn't get the Atari 2600 until 1984.
Wow. Yeah. So that was about 2 years before, or 3 years before I got my NES. My family didn't have much money either. We were dirt poor, like food stamps, homeless, living in a car, kind of poor a lot of the time. And but I've always been, I mentioned to you earlier before you recorded that my dad was older when I was born, so I have an appreciation for older things. And I got an Atari 2600 in the early 90s that I found at a flea market. And I remember coming home from the flea market and disconnecting my Sega Genesis from my TV and hooking up the Atari. And there was a marked experience that I had that I realized that I enjoyed playing the 2600 just as much as the Genesis. Like I thought I wouldn't like it, but I realized I was having just as much fun. And from that point, I never was a console fanboy, quote unquote. I just like games. You can still have fun. I still play my 2600 all the time. And you have a great time with it if you can get around the sort of biases you have about playing old games.
Yeah. I like to joke with my friends because I was a Nintendo kid growing up, but I had a couple friends that played Sega, and I like to joke with my friends and tell them all the time that Sega kids are weird. And the people that appreciate that the most are people that grew up playing Sega.
We were weird.
Yeah.
We were definitely weird. Yeah, it was the people that sought out Sega Genesis stuff were not super interested in playing Super Mario World.
Right.
I was like, I don't know, dude. I think that Phantasy Star looks pretty interesting, like a sci-fi RPG.
Going to one of my cousin's house, and it was my first experience with a Genesis, and it was Altered Beast. And I'm like, this is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you said you used to work for GameFAQs?
I didn't work for them. I
Wait.
wrote reviews, sometimes
Okay.
contracted and sometimes mostly just for fun. Like I
Okay.
was like their reviewer of the month of a time or two and content creator of the month a time or two. I only really did it about like a year and a half. I was
Uh-huh.
spending so much time writing reviews. I was like, I could just do this in front
On
of a
my
camera.
own.
And
Yeah.
well, the problem is on GameFAQs, like I said, I wrote this Elden Ring review and I spent like 80 or 90 hours playing Elden Ring. I really delved into it and I played it so early that like there wasn't any content. When I fought Melania, there were no guides online how to do it. So I just like muscled my way through it. But that review was like their review of the month, and I think I got about 200 likes on it. And I don't remember how many people looked at it, maybe a couple thousand, which was like huge.
Mm-hmm.
But that was a lot of effort to put into that. And I know the people that read it enjoyed it, but I was like, I want more people out there to know how I feel about this game.
Mm-hmm.
More people to need to know how I feel. So I was like, I just want to go to like the bigger market. I just want to go in a place where more people can learn about this game. Because at the time, I didn't think Elden Ring was going to be flipping game of the year, right?
Right.
It had been out like a month. I was like, oh, it's still a niche game. It's going to be big, but it's not going to be like Call of
Oh,
Duty big. It was Call of Duty big. It was
it
kind of
blew
Call of
up.
Duty big.
It really
So
did.
I was like, if I had put that on YouTube, a review of that on YouTube as fast as I'd gotten it out on GameFAQs, that might have gotten like 5 million views. Who knows?
Yeah, absolutely.
So not that I'm that interested in views, but like I am interested in building a community
Right.
and I want to be able to reach the most people I can. All right. So it was just it was like going looking for greener pastures. And I like YouTube and I thought I might be good on camera. So this was my chance to try it out and see if there was anything there.
Well, you have the voice for it.
Do I?
Yeah.
I've had people tell me, I get a lot of comments about my voice. I get everything from I sound like Napoleon Dynamite to I sound like I could be on the radio to I hate your voice. I get that sometimes, but it is a little boomy, I have to say.
I was about to say your voice is deep but clear. So to me, that's like a good thing for content creation. You don't like, I know I have a very high pitched voice, and the louder I get, the more high pitched it gets. Trust me, I get it. So when I hear a deeper voice that's clear, I'm like, that's good for content creation.
Yeah, I have a decent enough voice for it. I've learned to speak over the years of having to deal with people and being an educator. So
Yeah,
that certainly helps. But it also helps that I know how to mix a microphone. So there's a little bit of magic here. I am using like a $1,500 microphone, so that doesn't hurt.
Yeah, not me. Mine was like 150 and super happy with it, but it does what I needed to do. And I don't know how to mix a microphone. I have like the little soundboard, but I don't know how to use it properly.
Yeah, there's a lot to it. This one I didn't go out and buy it. I already owned this. Like I said, I've been a lifelong musician and I've done session work in Nashville and LA and New York and things like that. So this is the microphone, the diaphragm microphone I use to record acoustic guitar. It was sitting around. I was like, I might as well get some use out of it.
Right.
So we plug it in and it sounds pretty good for my voice. But if I had a higher voice, this microphone would be terrible.
So you did music. What instrument do you play, or instruments?
I play several different instruments, but my primary instrument is guitar. So I started guitar when I was 5 years old. My dad was a semi-professional guitarist, played in Nashville, and I grew up playing classical guitar and then moved into metal and hard rock when I was a teenager, like everybody else. And then I studied jazz at university. So,
who would you say is the biggest influence on the way you play guitar?
I probably have several because, like I said, I'm a hired gun, so I play a lot of different styles. In terms of when I play country stuff in Nashville, it's a lot of Chet Atkins and kind of older school sort of chicken picking players like Carl Perkins. But my biggest influence, probably in terms of all of my playing, would be Steve Vai.
Really?
When I was at the Berklee College of Music, Steve Vai did a guest lecturer series there and taught me some stuff. And ever since then, I've been a big fan of his. But yeah, I have a lot of influences. Guthrie Govan is a great guitarist, all around fantastic guitarist. And Brent Mason's probably the best session guitarist. He's been a big influence on me. But I have a whole lot of eclectic taste in music. So the biggest influence ever probably would be my dad, because I just spent every afternoon watching him practice for, most of my life until I got to the point where he wanted to watch me practice.
Since you studied music, jazz, this is a fun fact I can tell you, and you may know who I'm talking about, but up until I moved to New York, I was personal friends with Pete Fountain, the clarinet player.
Yeah. Dixieland jazz guy, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yep. Created the Half Fast Marching Club. Mm-hmm. Pete and his wife Pete passed away just a couple years ago. Oh, okay. Amazing people, greatest sense of humor in the world. Pete thought everything was hilarious. And remember when the baseball hats came out like 20 years ago that had the ponytail attached to it?
Right, yeah.
Pete wore one for 2 weeks straight because he was completely bald. And he would just take it off in front of people and start dying. Like, people thought, he's like, they think this is actually my hair. Everybody knew Pete was bald,
That's so good. I love that. That's like dad humor to the
he has
S-tier level.
Such a joy to life.
Yeah. That sounds awesome. I have heard a few of his recordings that he did. He started back in the 70s, late 70s, I believe. And he had some interesting stuff that I listened to back when I was in school, I believe. I remember his stuff. He was he's like old school Dixieland jazz, like 1950s style Dixieland jazz. It was almost a mixture of like Dixieland and like bebop. It was
he was for a jazz clarinetist, he was I'm trying to think of the what would describe him. He was just out there, he was a presence. Like, he wanted to stand out. You knew what he was doing, but at the same time.
Yeah, it's like Charlie Parker saxophone meets clarinet.
Right.
Yeah. Very cool. That's awesome. You don't sound like you're from New Orleans, I have to say.
You might be the first person that's ever said that.
You do not. You have a little bit of that like New Orleans kind of accent, but it sounds like almost to me like you're from Queens.
So here's the thing. I'm going to explain that. And I don't want to get too sidetracked because this is not about me. This is about you.
Yeah.
But I'm going to explain that because I've gotten my whole life, especially since I left the South and came to New York, people think I'm from the city, and it's because there is a Queens accent that Italians have, a New York City accent that Italians have. New Orleans is also a heavy Italian city. My family is Italian. My grandparents on my dad's side, full-blooded Italians. And so there's like a common root to those two. And so the New Orleans accent does get confused with a New York accent sometimes because we do have similarity in speech patterns.
You definitely do. You said sometime and you trailed off. Sometimes you'll say New York with an R and sometimes you say New York. It's nice. But what threw me off was when you said you're from New Orleans. You said New Orleans instead of Nolans.
Okay.
And I was like, he hasn't been there in a while.
I was there a couple months ago, but you
haven't lived there in a while, I don't think.
10 years.
10 years. That's long enough for that accent to start drifting.
Maybe. But we always make a joke that the only people that actually say Nolans are tourists. To people like us, it's more New Orleans.
New Orleans.
Yeah. It's one word, but the people that say it you have two ways that you could tell they're a tourist. They either say Nolans because only like this one guy on TV that was local that said that, or New Orleans. And we're New Orleans,
yes.
They're not from here.
Yeah, my good buddy was from New Orleans, and he said New Orleans. It was
Yeah.
like not Nolans.
Right. Right. No, there's
Yeah.
another syllable in there.
Yeah, New Orleans. But it all flowed together. But he had like a strong Creole background,
Mhm.
and he had really kind of you don't have that like Creole lilt to your
Right.
speech
Right.
patterns. You said you have that Italian background, so you're like your consonants on the back of your teeth, which
Yeah.
is what gives you the impression that you're from like one of the boroughs of New York, right?
Right.
So yeah, it's an interesting accent. I'm fascinated with diction and things like that, and your voice is very intriguing to me.
Well, thank you, I guess.
No, it's a compliment. I
No.
find it to be really interesting. It's very endearing.
I know my wife, she's from New York, and when we met, that was like a big thing for her. The first time we spoke, she's like, "Oh, that accent, I really like that."
Yeah, it's interesting.
So I do understand people like it. I don't hear anything. Every once in a while, I'll say a word and I hear it, and I'm like,
yeah, I catch little like southernisms in your speech patterns more than really your accent. It sounds to me almost like it's a like I said, someone from Queens doing a little bit of a Southern impersonation, which is interesting, which I like. It's backwards instead of it being someone from the South doing it like a New York impersonation. That gets kind of like it's over the top, and it sounds like it's more like New Jersey or something like that.
yeah,
it gets really weird. But no, I love your voice. I think it sounds great.
Thank you. So let's get a little bit back on track here.
Sure, why not?
So what is your goals as far as content creation? Do you have goals, or are you just, you make your content and you want to see where it goes?
I guess I have a little bit of a goal. So I'm not really like I have a good job. I'm not monetarily focused on YouTube, but I've been at the same university now coming up on like 18 years, and I'm fortunate enough that my state has a pension. So after 25 years, I retire. So I'll be drawing a pension that'll be pretty decent. I would love for YouTube to have grown to the level where when I retire, I don't need to make a full living off YouTube, but I would love for it to like supplement my income to my pension well enough,
right,
where I could do YouTube full time. Not because I want money. I'm never going to have 1 million subscribers, right? Maybe I'll hit like 20,000 one day. Who knows? Whatever. But I would love to make enough to where I could put out more content, right? Yeah. I'm working 40 hours a week, which I'm working like 50 to 60 right now. Getting out a 40-minute video every week is like killing me. I would love to make enough to where I could put out 2 videos a week, maybe a gameplay video, and like hire an editor to do one of those. I just want to make more content. I want to reach more people. That's my ultimate goal, is to reach as many people as I absolutely can and have them care about video games. So whatever it takes to do that, that's where I'm trying to go. But I'm just trying to get better with every video I do. So get a little bit better at editing, get a little bit better at coming up with ideas, getting a little bit better at speaking more clearly. So yeah, that's my goal right now, is to just get better.
Yeah. It's a good goal. I mean, I get it. I'm never going to be a 1 million subscriber YouTuber. I'm okay with that. I do this for fun.
Yeah, I get it. It is fun.
Enjoy it.
It's fun, but don't let anybody like steer you wrong. It's work.
Oh,
it
absolutely.
Is work. If I told you that I stress out more about YouTube than I do curing Alzheimer's disease, which is what I do for a living, you wouldn't believe me, but it's true a lot of the time. I like get into a panic mode about how I'm going to edit something, or the content creation route I'm going to take for that week, or am I SEO optimized and that sort of thing. It'll weigh on you immensely, and I hate that. I'm such a stickler for the details that YouTube maybe isn't the best thing for me psychologically, but the people I reach are they counteract that pretty well.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
So I have one more question for you. You ready for it?
I'm ready. Shoot it at me.
What's your Waffle House order?
Oh my Lord. Would you believe I worked at the Waffle House for 2 years?
Oh, so you know how to fight, son?
I know how to. Well, I broke up a few in my day. I've been known to put down a fight or two.
I've been kicked out of a Waffle House, and for people that are not from where you have Waffle Houses, if the head cook asks you to leave Waffle House, that's quite an achievement.
I was the head cook, and I worked the 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. shift.
Nice.
There was a Hank Williams Jr. concert that happened not far from where I was, and this old drunk chick comes rolling up in with about 20 guys, and she stood up on that counter by the cash register and started kicking her feet up in the air, and she kicked one of those glass globes and broke it.
Oh, wow.
And I asked her to leave, and one of her several boyfriends picked a fight with me. And he was a lot bigger than I was, but he didn't have 2 black belts and didn't do Golden Gloves boxing like I did. So I was able to wrangle him, for lack of a better term, up out of that place. But my Waffle House order would probably be, I would say probably the Texas cheesesteak melt plate onto, make it scattered, smothered, covered, capped, diced.
I could get down with all that except the capped.
You don't like the mushrooms?
No, not a mushroom
man,
guy.
I like the mushrooms.
I have a weird psychological thing with mushrooms. I feel like if I ate a person, that's what it would taste like.
Yeah, biting into a mushroom's like biting into someone's ear cartilage.
Yeah, mushrooms is like one of the very few things that I'm not eating for any reason.
Really? I'm not a picky eater. I'll eat pretty much anything, but I kind of don't like mayonnaise. So
light mayonnaise.
Light mayonnaise is okay. I can handle it if it's on a sandwich. I went to a potluck luncheon not that long ago, and everybody brought just a whole parade of mayonnaise-based salads. And I remember standing there with like a white paper plate, and I had a scoop of chicken salad, a scoop of potato salad, a scoop of macaroni salad. And then I went to the next dish, and it was more macaroni salad. And I was like, no. And I skipped it, and the lady that made it was standing right there, and she was like, Jamie, the macaroni salad's not good enough for you. And I was like, sorry, Linda, it's all the mayonnaise I can handle. And then I went and sat down, and the plate was so laden with macaroni-based salads that it folded and they all fell on the carpet. And as I was sitting there scraping white food onto a white plate surrounded by white people, I was like, this is not where I want to be in my life. And I threw it all in the trash and left.
Yeah. Look, if you have a plate full of white foods, different foods that are all white, it's probably a room full of white people.
It was a room. It was so full of white people. It was painful. But yeah, I left after that, and I went and got some street tacos.
Oh, that's awesome. I have a weird thing for street food. I love it so much.
Dude.
I try to tell my wife, you know, I live in New York now, but like down in New Orleans, like you could pull over on the side of the road. They selling shrimp. They got, you know, you can get tacos. You can get boiled peanuts.
Yep.
Like, you could, like, you just pull over on the side of the road and buy food from people.
Yeah, I used to be real bad about pulling over and getting boiled peanuts all the time. No, I'm like the only one that likes them. And I would throw the whole shell in my mouth because I was like driving. And I just like de-shell them and just like eat the soggy, salty freaking peanuts and spit the shell out like back into the bag that the freaking boiled peanuts came out. And my wife was like, that's the grossest crap I've ever seen in my life. I was like, is there any other way to do it? And she's like, yeah, like a civilized person. I'm like, no, that's not.
No, not with boiled peanuts. We're all
man. You can eat the whole shell. It's just super salty.
Yeah, you could chew it for a minute. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I treat them like the way I do sunflower seeds. I just like pack them in my cheek.
And I was about to say, you throw a couple in your mouth, you shell them, you spit the shells in a Circle K cup.
Yep, or out the window flying down 65 at like 90 miles an hour.
Right.
Well, we're cut from the same cloth.
Yeah, I get that. So I'd really like to thank you for being here. Found out some really great information. I hope people learn about you, and I hope people hear about you. Everybody go subscribe. I'm going to make sure to have all your links down below when we get this posted up. So appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Mr. Tendo. I appreciate you having me on the video. I love your content, and thank you everybody for watching. If you want to catch my other content, like you said, he has it linked below. We'd love to have you there as long as you love video games.